Hey guys, welcome back. Thanks for joining me. This week we're talking about something that's really important towards our healing journey, and that is not blaming yourself for the ending of this relationship. You know, so often I have men and women come up to me, either they're clients of mine or just people that are asking me questions either on YouTube or social media, and they ask, is there something I could have done? Or, maybe I didn't do enough of this. And it's a lot of blaming of yourself, blaming for that relationship ending, thinking that because someone left you, because someone cheated on you, because someone had an affair behind your back, lied behind your back, whatever the situation is that's really painful that we need to heal from, because this heartbreak has happened, we tend to just go within and blame ourselves. What did I do wrong that caused this? And I know I've gone into detail in terms of what we can do going forward to prevent us from attracting unhealthy people that will do these things to us. But this video is really about, not blaming yourself for something that someone else did to you. I see so many people take on the responsibility of relationships ending, and it's just not, number one, healthy, and it's not your responsibility, and it's not true. You are not the reason why the relationship ended. The relationship ended because of the other person, because they wanted it to end for whatever their reasons are. And like I said, if you have been in a relationship with a narcissist or a sociopath, they are not going to raise their hand and say, well, this is what I did to cause the relationship to end. I was emotionally unavailable. I, was a workaholic. I put my career or my friendships before my relationship or my marriage. I didn't spend enough time with my spouse. I wasn't the person that I was in the beginning of the relationship. I've changed. They don't really take responsibility for their own actions. They just don't. Instead, what they do is they run away and they do something that's probably hurtful, like cheat or affairs and lie or whatever. Or they just, quite frankly, look at you and say, you're the one to blame. Healthy relationships are about unconditional love. And unconditional love means I love you, flaws and all. So when you're being cranky at me because you're hungry, or if you've had a bad day and you've taken it out on me a little bit, as long as you come back and you own it and you say, you know what, I'm sorry I did that, I was just being like a little cranky, then it's like we're all human. And I think in this day and age, we expect our partners to be this perfection. And when they're not perfection, we just leave the relationship. And the people that do these heartbreaking things, like have affairs and cheat and just jump ship or lie, behind your back for years and years, are the people that are just going to continue to make the same mistakes over and over again. And I had someone ask me, do you think, my ex-wife cheated on me and now I have this thing that like all women cheat? No, not all women cheat. And once a cheater, always a cheater. To be honest, I don't know. I think when you make a mistake once, that's different than it happening multiple times, because when it happens multiple times and you start actually having a physical and emotional affair, what happened was you left your responsibility in this relationship and went in and started a whole new one. And in my mind, that's not a true test to a healthy person, because a healthy person is going to say, okay, there's a problem in this relationship. I'm going to take responsibility for my part in the relationship to help fix it. And most of the time, the people that jump ship don't take responsibility for their part. And the other partner is sitting there taking on everything. The person that you're dealing with is not healthy or capable to raise their hand and say, okay, this was my part in the relation and why this relationship ended. Most of the times, the people that lie, that have affairs, that cheat, that just completely give up on a marriage or a relationship and just abandon the relationship and throw someone away like they're yesterday's garbage, they have an inability to take responsibility for their actions. And more than likely, you're a really good-hearted, probably a little codependent, maybe a little bit of a people pleaser type of a person, and you take on the responsibility of the relationship. So the reason why the relationship ended, you're going to completely take on all of that responsibility. When in fact, the relationship ended because probably the other person was incapable of actually having true, healthy adult relations. And what that means is, if something's going wrong in your relationship, the healthy way to go about this is to say, what am I doing wrong in the relationship to not have the relationship that I would like? What can I do? How can I change to help this relationship along to get it to where I would like it to be? Because the fact of the matter is, the person that probably left you or cheated on you wasn't happy. But instead of fixing themselves, going within and saying, what am I doing wrong that's causing my unhappiness in this relationship? Instead, what they did is they put it all on you. And then they went somewhere else to find their, quote, happiness somewhere else. The fact of the matter is, anything that person did to you has nothing to do with you. It has to do with them. It has to do with their lack of character, their lack of morals, their lack of empathy. They themselves are not healthy and whole by themselves. They are not a healthy person, because if they were, they would never be able to truly hurt you, to cause you that much heartbreak. I heard a video recently by TD Jakes, and he's a preacher, he's a motivational speaker, he's absolutely amazing. I know he's been on a couple of he's been on Oprah a bunch of times, and he said something, when we get married because our relationship is a happy relationship. It's one that we want to be in, or that very beginning stages of relationship, the honeymoon phase, are absolutely amazing. But the true test of a relationship is not saying, okay, I'm going to marry you during the good times. It's, I'm going to marry you during the bad times. I'm going to stick with you through thick and thin. It's what we say in our vows when we marry someone, and even if you're not married and you just are in a long-term relationship, you are making a commitment to that person. You're telling that person through good times and bad. You don't need to stand in a church or in front of your family and friends and declare through thick and thin. You being with someone for a long period of time is you giving that commitment to someone. And I think that people, number one, don't really honor those vows. They don't even understand what they mean. Everyone gets married when the good times are good, but what happens when the bad times come? Because they are going to, because that's life. Life is not going to be sunshine every single day. And when the times get tough, are you going to raise your hand and say, okay, what am I doing? How can I change? What can I do better in this relationship? Even if I think I'm doing everything I possibly can, obviously there's something else. I can give a little bit more. There's always more that you can reach down and give the other person. And the people that jump ship and do these hurtful things, they can't do that. They can't do that because they put their happiness in the hands of someone else. They put the responsibility of the successfulness of the relationship in the hands of someone else. And that's what happens a lot in couples coach or couples counseling. If you go to a therapist, it's just two people telling each other, well, you did this and you did that, and there's no one actually taking responsibility for their actions. And so I just wanted to make this video because when you're sitting there thinking, what did I do wrong? I must have done something wrong. It must be me. I wasn't cute enough or thin enough or happy enough, or I didn't compliment them enough. Whatever it is that they've told you, number one, that you didn't do for them. And number two, just the story that you've kind of told yourself over and over again about how you're not enough. That's the reason why someone left you. We have to start not taking someone doing what they did to us personally. It's going to take time to get that thought out of your head of what did I do wrong? It must be me. I must not be good enough. I must not be lovable enough. All of those thoughts. Because now you've repeated that thought so much that now it's imprinted in your mind. And now it's time to take control of that thought. So every time that thought comes up of what did I do wrong? Maybe I wasn't doing this enough or that enough. No, that thought just goes away. And you say, you know what? I'm not believing that thought today. I did nothing wrong. Because even if you can look back in hindsight and say, well, maybe I could have done this a little better. Okay, but that's no reason for someone to have done what they did to you. That's no reason for someone to have thrown you away like yesterday's trash. You didn't deserve that, because we're all human and no one's perfect. And the true relationships, whether that's friendship, family, intimate relationships, it doesn't matter. It's about accepting people, flaws and all. And there are some flaws that we can't accept that are completely and utterly unhealthy. And then there are others like, okay, she was being a little moody today, or okay, he was being a little stubborn and, maybe not the nicest person. It's a gray line. It's not black and white. and perfection doesn't exist. And so if you can look back on your last relationship and listen to what the other person said and say, okay, you know what? Maybe I could have done something better. Maybe I could have done that better. Maybe I will take that into my next relationship, or maybe I won't. Maybe I'm completely happy with who I am inside and out. And I'm going to find someone that's going to love all of this unconditionally. And it's out there. Change only happens if you want it to happen. So if you're perfectly happy with the way you are, rock on. No one can make you change. And what happens is people expect their partner to change and never do any changing themselves. And so they put all of that onto the other partner, and when no change starts to happen, they jump ship. And that's not healthy, because your happiness starts with you. So like I said, I feel like Tony Robbins says this a lot when he does some of his videos on, like couples coaching and things of that, trying to help, people have a successful marriage, is you have to take responsibility for yourself in your marriage. So if there's something going on and you feel like, my wife's not happy, well, what are you doing that maybe isn't causing her to feel happy in the relationship? Were you once very attentive, and now over the years, because work gets in the way, kids get in the way, what have you, and it happens because we're human and life sometimes takes over, but have you thought about, am I being the supportive husband? Am I being the loving husband to her? Am I really there for her? The fact of the matter is, women, at least I'll speak for myself, but most women require very little. They just want the emotional support, and men are the providers, so they want to be able to provide that to a woman. And same thing goes for a woman and a man. If your husband's unhappy, what are the things that you aren't doing that maybe you did in the beginning of the relationship? Are you a little bit more rigid now because you have kids and you guys have been together for so long and there's responsibilities, and you're not as lighthearted and fun and easygoing as you once were in the beginning of the relationship, and just kind of lackadaisical? Maybe we need to get back to that. That's where you take responsibility for yourself in your own relationship. And when that happens, marriages end up being successful and people fall back in love with each other, and the romance is there and the chemistry is there and the attraction is there. It's when we just point our finger at someone else constantly and expect them to change that, resentment happens and bitterness happens and anger happens and divorce happens, because no one's taking responsibility for their own part in the relationship. So I hope this helps everyone out there. Don't forget to hit subscribe if you haven't already, and don't forget to leave any comments or questions down below, and I will see you in my next video.